Representative of Turkey. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Islamic Republic of Iran.
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, Madam President, distinguished delegates. Based on the general debate held in the previous meeting of this emergency session and the adoption of resolution on the advisory opinion of the ICJ issued last April, the international community expressed its clear demand to end the occupation in the occupied Palestinian territory. The obligation of the Israeli regime to end occupation as endorsed by the mentioned resolution must include several main components: withdrawing military forces, terminating settlement activities, returning land and property to Palestinians, allowing them to return to their homeland, ending discrimination against them, making reparation for them, and holding all perpetrators accountable for atrocities and violence against Palestinians. The provisions of the resolution adopted in this assembly are clear and unequivocal. However, we have witnessed no positive change in Israeli apartheid policies and actions. This regime relentlessly continues violence against civilians, aggression, mass killing, mass displacement, mass detention, mass destruction, mass starvation, and other grave crimes that are being perpetrated with a savagery unseen in human history. In fact, this is the pattern of this regime behavior to intentionally disregard United Nations resolution aiming to weaken the United Nations legitimacy. Israel has clearly demonstrated non-compliance with UN resolution, including the 4 resolutions adopted since October 2023 during this emergency special session. These resolutions addressed the dire humanitarian need of Palestine, requested an immediate ceasefire in the occupied Palestinian territories, demanded an end to the illegal occupation, and affirmed the inalienable right of the Palestinians to self-determination. It is critical to note that the Israeli occupation has been ongoing for a long time, a fact that the Israeli regime deliberately omits. Israel is not in a position to criticize the international community for objecting to and condemning the illegal and colonial policies operated by this regime. Since the illegal occupation of Palestine, Israeli forces have engaged in violent acts of aggression against the occupied territories, resulting in hundreds of thousands of civilian fatalities and injuries in past decades. Considering the horrific and unfair invasion and bombardments against Palestinians, the brutality and inhumanity of this regime, stemming for its apartheid and genocidal policies, would be undeniable. In addition to crimes against Palestine, Israel has also tried to extend war, instability, and aggression to other territories in Syria, Lebanon, and my country, Iran. In this regard, while welcoming to reach ceasefire in Lebanon, Iran would like to point out the Israeli regime history of reneging on agreement and emphasize the need to continue calling on this regime to be bound by the ceasefire agreement and fully comply with United Nations resolutions, including Security Council Resolution 1701. We also strongly condemn any aggression and invasion by the Israeli occupying forces against the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Syria. Israel must be accountable for repetitive aggression on Syrian territory, including the destruction of infrastructure and further occupation in Syrian Golan, which is committing in a violation of agreement on disengagement between Israel and Syrian forces of 1974. We highlight the undeniable duty of the Security Council to immediately react to these aggressions. The violation of international law, including human and humanitarian rights law, that is repeated by Israeli on numerous occasions, is a true threat to international peace and security. We consider this situation as a systematic failure by the Israeli regime to meet its membership conditions at the United Nations. We believe that Israeli illegal act should prompt all United Nations members to reconsider this regime membership in the United Nations in accordance with Article 6 of the Charter. This helps to enforce the implementation of international resolution and expedite the realization of Palestinian rights, including self-determination and establishment of an independent and sovereign state with full UN membership. Madam President, distinguished colleagues, in light of our first obligation on the UN Charter, we must take effective collective measure to remove this long-lasting threat to peace. It is high time for us as United Nations members to fulfill this obligation. In spite of the fact that the Israeli authorities have committed a wide variety of crimes, they are enjoying total impunity. This impunity is perpetuated, among other things, by the unwavering support of certain states and the inaction of the Security Council, as evidenced by the US veto in November. This disgraceful veto not only highlighted the Security Council failure to uphold its charter-based mandate, but also served as a US-granted license for the occupying regime to continue its occupation and carnage in Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria. This impunity must be brought to an end. The Council must hold Israel accountable for its violation of international law and ensure the protection of civilians. Accordingly, the arrest warrant issued by the ICC must mark a turning point indicating the end of impunity and a beginning of accountability, upholding the rule of law, protecting civilians, and achieving justice for victims, as well as preventing further crimes. I would like to conclude by stating that my delegation will vote in favor of the resolutions drafted in this regard. Given the urgency of humanitarian situation and the importance of an immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire in Gaza, it is also necessary to expedite the establishment and activation of an international mechanism to assist in the investigation and prosecution of persons responsible for the most serious crimes under international law committed in the occupied Palestinian territory. However, our support for the resolution does not affect our long-standing and consistent national position on the question of Palestine, which include non-recognition of the Israeli regime. I thank you.
I thank the distinguished representative of Iran. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of